Welcome to all our participants. Today we'd like to start our webinar, and I give you a quick introduction of who is talking today and what's our topic. We do talk about the case study we just recently launched about what we did within France Télévisions together with our partner Flowworks. With me today is Oliver Meurer. He is heading the Flowworks company. My name is Jutta and I'm heading the Extreme Distribution company. What's it about? We did work together in France Télévisions in a certain department about publishing, and Oliver will give you an introduction about what's the project about, what did we realize, and how could we use exactly the same module for other customers. Oliver, I will hand over to you the presentator mode, and it's on you.
Hi everybody, this is Oliver speaking. I'm from Flowworks. Before we jump into France Télévisions, I'd very quickly summarize what we do at Flowworks. We are a software producer. We make a media asset management or digital asset management system called the Flow Center. The Flow Center is basically is a modular system that comprises 3 or 4 very important parts. 1, it's a complete MAM system. 2, it's a complete device and workflow management system. 3, it's a complete media engine system, i.e. it includes a transcoder, it has a database, it has user rights, it has content rights management, it has extensive API connectors, it connects all of your environment, your editing suites, your playout sites, your broadcast servers, your ingest systems, etc., etc. And 4, it's also a publishing engine. So that's obviously leading to what we do at France Télévisions. At France Télévisions, it's very much about publishing. So what's the background? Very quickly, for those of you who don't know France TV that well, it's obviously the big national broadcaster, the state broadcaster. They have 10 national main channels plus lots of regional channels. And their key need that they spoke to us about was, in all of those channels, we have 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year content, and we need to communicate all of that. Obviously, you can work that out yourself. It's an awful lot of content that needs to go out and be exposed to a professional target group, in this case, journalists, bloggers, the interested public, rights sellers, rights buyers, all sorts of people. The way the company is organized, you can imagine this, is that they have different groups or departments very much by channel, something I'm sure you'll recognize if you happen to be from that environment. So we have lots of different editors working on the editorial side who just work for, let's say, channel number 1 and maybe channel number 3, and the next guy works on just channel number 4, and the 4th guy works on just channel number 2 and channel number 7, etc., etc. So it's quite a complex environment with very high volume, and they need to outgest, push out, and show their content to a very wide community of professional users. In their case, as I said, primarily journalists, but those journalists are also very different. So not everybody is interested in the same things. One is maybe interested in just his regional content. The next guy is interested just in sports. The third guy is interested in culture and sports. So you can see, you start coming up with this quite complex matrix of who does what, with which content, and who sees what. So we had to get all of that under, and in Germany, you have this lovely expression, to get everything under one hat. You can imagine what that was like. It's trying to catch lots of babies running around, really. But to meet our goals, which is primarily to communicate all of the program offerings, 24 hours a day, every day of the week, every day of the year, without any gaps whatsoever, without any omissions, and very importantly, without any errors, including, of course, errors which might arise from a technical point of view, which might arise due to it's unsure whether the rights are totally cleared. So we had to have lots of checks and balances in the system. I'll show you some of that in a minute. So communicate all of that, but have just one system, but catering to all the different editorial users, those are the FTV users, and channel responsibilities. On the other hand, as I said, we have all those journalists who are interested in different things. They want to see what they're interested in, not more, but not less either. So they want to be able to choose and pinpoint exactly what they want to look at. And again, they want to have one single playout front end, but be able to cater to all those highly individual needs and interests. So communicate additionally, and this is something specific that I'll show you in a minute, communicate one-to-one for highlights, special, breaking news. Let's say you're an editor at France TV, and you have this really hot content, and you know the journalist Paul would be very, very interested in that, would make really good use of it. So you want to highlight to Paul that you have this content and it's going to air next Wednesday. You want to give him a preview today so he can write up an article, you know, basically market your content for you. So you need to communicate the specific item to that specific recipient. We have a system for that called the Room, which is basically a collaboration tool, and I'll show you in a minute. And last, but certainly not least in terms of the goals, you're talking to editors, not techies. They don't want to know about technology, they don't understand technology, and they really couldn't care about technology. They want to have it as easy as possible, no matter what their needs are or who they are. It's got to be intuitive, highly automated, and absolutely 100% bullet and error proof. So what did we do? And I'll jump into what the solution is now. Building on our, quite large system, which we supply production houses, post houses, broadcasters, agencies, industrials, news agencies with, which is a modular system. We gave them 3 basic modules: the technical engine, which did all of the technical processing for them and does all of it, of course, in a very high volume, and also manages things like automatic deduplication, by the way. We gave them, secondly, a editorial environment that we call the Flow Archive, which is basically a user interface, GUI, that we'll look at in a minute, which has to be easy to use, but very complete, and again, error-proof. I keep saying that because it's hugely important that things don't get screwed up. And so we built in lots of checks and balances. And finally, we have, the king of the hill, the people we're talking to, the journalists. Of course, that's got to be super easy to use as well, but give the journalists, the recipients, the ability to really pick and choose what they want to look at. So those goals are obviously met, and we supplied a solution which basically sits on 3 levels. Let me just try and get to the next chart, and I've just put together the simple pictures here to show you. It's basically like an inverted pyramid. At the bottom, you have the technical and the workflow engine. That's where your content actually gets ingested. That's where we QC it. That's where we transcode it. That's where we pull out the metadata that arrived at upload. That's where we detect what channel something belongs to. That's where we sanity check the metadata, whether it's complete, or things like airing dates are not in the past, but actually in the future. That maximum availability dates are in the future and not in the past. So a lot of things happen in the technical sphere and in the workflow engine. That's largely being handled by the Flow Center itself. There is a little bit of ancillary transcoding we also use for some specials. We also use the CDN for some of the playout tasks. But all of that gets managed at the bottom level, which is really the backbone of the system, if you like, in the technical and workflow engine. All of what I've just said about the technical engine is hidden from the users. Why? Because they don't know, they don't want to know, they wouldn't understand, they don't care. So let's move up 1 tier and go to the editorial backend. From France TV's perspective, that's kind of, where they do all the work. They kind of tend to ignore that there is a technical platform that sits on, but they don't need to care. So in the editorial backend, the various interested parties at France TV log in, upload their content or get uploaded. They look at the metadata, they make sure that everything is correct. And they can basically just sit back and watch the system do the publishing for them, or they can intervene at will and change metadata. And I'll show you that in a minute, but that's kind of the main, that's where the action really happens at France TV. And then above that, playout channels and playout sites. There are two types, and we'll also look at both of them. At the top to the left is the semi-public website, which is called France TV Preview, which again addresses journalists, bloggers, professionals. So you need to register to be able to look at that. When you register, you can basically apply, I'd like to see all the content regarding culture, sports, and news. And I specifically want to see everything for channel 3, 5, 7, and the region of Bourgogne, let's say. So you can create your own profile, and that's the content you're going to see on your playout site. And you see everything that's available, depending on your filtering, of course. The two little icons you see on the right, I'll show you in live, that's going to be a little bit more impressive, are what we call rooms. Very simply put, a room is a microsite that the Flow Center automatically generates, and it allows you as an editor to say, I'm going to create a room, I'm going to put 2 pieces of content in there, and I'm going to get the system to make me a new microsite, and that microsite I'm going to send to Paul. And Paul will be the only person who is allowed to look at that if it has a login. But what I'm really trying to achieve, I'm trying to catch Paul's attention. This is really hot stuff, Paul. Look at this, make something of it. So it's a collaboration tool, and it allows one-to-one marketing in the context of France TV. Okay, very quickly, I'll probably show you all of this in more detail when we get to the actual sites. Maybe if you're interested, we can circulate these 4 slides later. You can read this yourself. So in the editorial backend, people upload, look at metadata, they watch the auto processing. Everything is run automatically, including giving automatic statuses depending on dates, for example. The system will auto-publish, or you can manually publish items, and checking validity, of course, of completeness, of dates are correct when doing so, and it will automatically depublish when dates have run out, for rights, for example. So users tend to use the surface more to survey what is happening. And of course, users here can manage their front-end users. So the registered journalists are also in this GUI, available for the FTV users to maybe track a little bit. So did Paul actually look at my hot content? How many times did Mike log in? Which content got the most views, etc., etc. And last but not least, this is where the room publishing gets done, but I'll show you all of that when we get to the live GUIs. And again, these are the 2 main GUIs, the regular preview front end and the room. So I'm going to go out of the charts and straight into the live GUIs. Does anybody have questions at this point? Is there something I can answer?
Oliver, we do collect the questions in the comment field, and there are no questions so far.
Oh, everybody's happy. Terrific. Okay, so I've logged into the France TV editorial backend. First of all, you'll notice it's all in French. So Flow Center obviously does any language, and does any amount of languages. For France TV, we translated everything to French, but didn't keep the English version. So bear with me if your French isn't all that good. But it's not a very complicated GUI to use, really. You can see here, it's basically, this is a slightly older version of our main archive GUI, but it works very well for this particular purpose. You can see here, it's got these little panels. So here's an upload panel. This is how I would upload content. I'm not going to do this because I'm on the live system. I would basically give a title, give a subtitle, decide which genre that is, which channels that is applicable for, what video type it is, and maybe you can make some sense of what it says here. This could be a feature film, this could be just a trailer, this could be a summary, a teaser, bonus tracks, etc., etc. And so I'd have to obviously enter some dates here, selected some files and upload them. And of course, as you can see here, when I'm uploading a file or multiple files, I'm applying all of this metadata. So we'll not do this. And what then happens is the Flow Center creates these media containers we can see here. I didn't search now, this is just the latest on top. So if we just pick out one of them, I just want to explain what a media container is. If I double click on this, you can see I'm getting a preview video, and obviously I can go watch this. Wonderful. But more to the point, I'm getting all of this metadata. So most of this metadata was put in when it was uploaded, and I can just simply review the content, okay? Or I can go and change something. Maybe I spotted a typo somewhere, etc., etc. I've activated my editing rights, so I'm allowed to pretty much edit everything. And you can do a lot of things in terms also not just of the metadata, but also the placement, where on the site should it be placed, is it to be a specific highlight, etc., etc. And up here I can see where is it currently published. So you can see here it's publié in France 2, which is one of their channels. And we'll check back in a minute. What else can I see in the media container? So the media container contains the media itself, but obviously there are various formats. So I've clicked onto the tab formats, and I can see uploaded was the native file, and the system has gone and generated two derivatives, as we call them. Derivatives, and you can see that here, it's expressed quite technically, are different qualities of the video. So in the media container, you could find different qualities of the video, you could find different languages, you could find different brandings. Does it have subtitles? Yes, no. You could even upload additional pictures, as they've done here. You can see they've uploaded a picture and said, I'm going to use this for the carousel, which is kind of a highlight in the highlight lane in the playout front end. Just to explain that, that's basically this picture up here. So you can pretty much chuck everything into a media container that you have. For France TV and this particular use, it's not very complicated because they don't really have language versions. They do have branded, non-branded versions. You can see up here, we've actually automatically branded these contents upon arrival. So it's part of the ingest workflow. QC, branding, and transcoding is done automatically. And so everything sits in here. The system has gone and checked. And is, for example, the date de diffusion, that's the date of air, i.e. the date that it's on air. Is that in the future? Yes, it is. That's wonderful. And so currently it has the status of it's published. Now I could click here and unpublish it. Otherwise, the machine will automatically do that after or at the end of the 17th. So at midnight on the 17th of this month, this item is then going to go offline again. Okay, if you have questions, jot them down. There's a lot to look at in here, but I hope it's fairly clear. We're looking at a media container. It contains all of the media, all of the metadata, all of your current statuses, all of your rights, all of your history, who uploaded it, who edited it, who published it, and it's all in one little shoebox. That's a media container. Then over here, I have what we call the projects. Now, projects are basically, in the case of France Télévisions, they're simple folders. So because we looked at this item and we said it's currently in the status of publié, right? Here are my publishing folders, and we said that one is a France 2. We can see that here. So if I open the folder France published and under the label France 2, I can see here's my content. And there it is. So in here, you can see also with the little tagging here, publié, the green line, basically means it's all published. Because we're in France 2, I'm seeing everything from the channel 2. If I go to channel 4, obviously I see what's currently published for channel 4, what's published for channel 5, etc., etc. Again, just to make sure, I could obviously at any point intervene and decide to unpublish this clip simply by hitting one button. Otherwise, the system runs automatically, and the system creates all of the derivatives and all of the metadata needed for publishing. Okay, I don't want to make this too complicated because it's already a lot. So let's jump on over. I just wanted to highlight to you, so we're looking at the published items that are in France 2. And let's go into the user front end now. So I've already logged into this as well. You can see it's actually pretty straightforward. it's not the most beautiful site there is, if you ask me, but it's very, very functional. In my profile, I have the rights, and I've subscribed to all of the channels and all of the genres at France TV. That's why you're seeing all of them. If you've just made a selection, you would just see some of the channels. Here's the content we just looked at in the back end, Valentine. So if I look at this item here, again, I'm foreseeing the preview, and I'm seeing metadata. And you can see here this metadata, it wasn't additionally typed. So open the media container, it's the metadata that's written up in here. Okay, so somebody wrote this wonderfully, gave a nice description, and gave the so-called fiche technique, which is basically a listing of the participants, etc., etc. So in the preview, I'm getting the right result. I'm finding it under channel 2. I can see the headline, I can see the subline, I can preview the video, I can read the key metadata, and all of this obviously gets published automatically to the front end, because this front end we're looking at is really part of the flow system. It's one and the same system. If you remember here, this is the inverted pyramid. It's all the same system. It just looks different because we're now looking at, or a different target group is looking at this content. And so what I could do now is say, okay, I want to filter, let's say France 2, we already did that. Oops, sorry, I want France 2, and I want everything that they have as documentaries in channel 2. Ah, super, we've got some documentaries. Let's say if they also have some magazines. So I can change and click around my my filters at will, and create my own browsing experience by saying I'm, looking at everything from these channels. I'm particularly interested in culture, so in fact I'm going to pick all of the channels and look at the entire cultural offering that we have across all the channels at the moment. Okay, so let's say the data's come. This particular item, which is being aired on the 30th of March at 1:01 o'clock and 10 minutes. Once that item has aired and the airing is finished, the system will automatically retract this item from the published folders. Okay, so you saw that we have different folders here. New uploads, stuff that's just come in and that needs some work perhaps. We just go back to uploads and channel 2. So that particular item is still missing metadata. For example, date de diffusion here is missing. So the system won't automatically publish it until somebody has filled this out, and then he can press the button publish. The content will then move from uploads to the next status, which is public, and turn up in the folder published in France 2, because it's a France 2 content. Okay, so from uploads, things go to published. Once dates have run out, things move over into the archive. And the archive is a temporary archive. Basically, things that appear here have just been on air, but their airing date has passed, and they stay on the system and visible to the users for, let's say, another week. Why do we do that? Because frequently journalists ask about something that they didn't realize was about to be aired, but had spotted that was aired, and maybe want to really write a review rather than a preview. So in that case, having the access to this content is very, very practical. The editor can look at it again, look at all the metadata. And at this particular point, he could also decide he really wants to send this particular content to a very specific recipient. And to do that, he has what we call the showroom. So down here in this panel, you see you can download items, you can transcode here. I'm not going to start all of this. And I can create a showroom. So let me do a new showroom. New room for Jutta. So I can give it a name. And oops, let me actually save that first. And then I want to send Jutta this particular item. Maybe just this particular item. Maybe there are other things that I think are related and I'd also like Jutta to have a look at. So here I've got something that's only going to play in future, but I think Jutta will find it very interesting. That one, and you can see it's just drag and drop. Just like I can drag and drop here, of course, which I don't need to do because the system does it automatically, but the entire surface works through drag and drop. So I've created a new room. I've added some content. I'm going to hit open. And what I can now do is I can write a little email. Hi, Jutta. Jutta, room for you. And write a little bit of text for Jutta. Hey, Jutta, this is really interesting. You should make something of it. I could ask for Jutta to log in or not. I'm leaving that out. And now I can either choose Jutta by simply writing her name here. Okay. Or I can choose from a list of known contacts. For example, I just want my France TV preview users. So I want to send this off to Monsieur Suzy Bayou, for example. I'm not going to do this right now, but you can see how that works. And I would whiz it off. The system would then send an email. It would basically make a room and send an email to Jutta. And that's all you need to do. Let me just save that, and then I'll show you the preview of it. And as you can see at the top here, it's got a separate URL. The system has created a new website, a microsite. It's got the 3 pieces that I put into the room. 1, 2, 3. They're in here. And I can preview the file. You can see some of the metadata. There's not much in this content. There's a little bit more in here. There you go. And so the recipient of this room selectively gets content that is tailored to him, and he gets an individual room, meaning it's absolutely perfect one-to-one dialogue marketing. The power in this obviously lies in it catches people's attention. So if you really want somebody to pay attention, you want to sell him something, you want him to review something, you want him to prove something, you want to take note of your abilities, for example, send him a room, write his name on top of the website. We don't have that in France TV, but we have it in all the other versions, and say, hi, Peter, this is what we do, this is what we could do for you. And don't write a 5-page memo, send him a video. Send him a 5-page memo attached to the video, but make it multimedia. And that's what the room does. And the way France TV uses it is they catch people's attention by showing them highlights apart from the general website, by specifically picking out content and sending that to users they know would be interested in that, or at least they would guess would be interested in that. And that obviously gets the juices flowing. So you're getting the attention that you're trying to get in the internet by customizing your content. Okay, so that part, the showroom, is a second aspect to the system, but it's a complementary part to the overall system. So where content flows into the machine room down here, gets processed, all these wonderful things happen. Most of the editorial work is automated and is basically, because we're talking about publishing, things are published automatically. They will be published on the general user interface. They will be depublished when their rights have run out. And if I would really want to have a marketing drive for specific content, as an editor, I can create an endless amount of these rooms and tailor them as individually as I would like to. So I can have one room per one person. I can have one room for 50 people. I could have one room for 1 million people. And of course, I can have 1 million individualized microsites, personal rooms. It's a very strong tool. You can use it for production, you can use it for post-production, you can use it to sell things, you can use it for your customer relationship management, you can use it to get approvals, you can use them if you're a production house and you have an external supplier, get him to upload you via an upload room, use the screening room, use the newsroom, use the showroom, use the approval room, use the download room, use the sales room. There are endless possibilities. It's basically all about collaboration, but not doing it via stupid Dropbox, and certainly not by sending emails anymore, because you don't want to make copies of your files and you want to stay in control of things. Okay. Right, I've whizzed through it, I think. I hope I wasn't too fast, people. Not quite sure if I've lost half of you. I hope not. Can I help with questions? What would you be interested in?
Oliver, we do have a question. Can I use such a tool also to send or receive files without managing them in a backend?
Yes, we're currently building that. There are two versions of that. The really simple version will be, you would have, let me show you. You would have a login site. You log on, and the next dialog. This is not very pretty. I know. The next page, once you've logged on, would say, "Would you like to create a room and send it?" And then you simply type in, "Hey Peter, look, could you please upload me the sound versions that you made? I'm sending you an invite to an upload room. Best regards, Oliver." Then you enter Peter's email address, and then you pick the type of room you'd want, in this case an upload room, and you hit make it so. So you don't need to administrate the system, you just need to obviously administrate what would you like to do with your room, because there are different types of room, which could do uploads, downloads, reviews, timecode based comments, approvals, etc., etc. So you basically just need to pick out which features you'd like to send somebody.
Okay, then I have another questions about the amount of users. So how many can I get, internal and external?
Well, there is no limit to the amount of users you can have. Typically, neither in the back end nor in the front end. But let me go through step by step. In the back end, the only limitation you'll have to the amount of users is really your server power. Let's say you have 5,000 users. If all of your 5,000 users are going to be online at the same time, we need a very fast database to be able to handle that sort of amount of requests. So we need to have more servers with more copies of the database sharing the work. But you can go from 1 user to 1 million user quite seamlessly. The second observation there, though, is because we have systems, for example, at Siemens, where we have 50,000 users. First observation is they're never online at the same time. Why? Because they're globally distributed and half of them are always asleep. So it's maximum 25,000 who are potentially online at the same time. The reality is at real peaks, we'll have like 5,000 people online at the same time for a global system. That's quite a lot, actually. So what we simply built is we built a cascading server environment where if server number 1 gets too many requests, he simply reroutes them to server 2, to server 3, to server 4. Very simple. So next thing, the third observation is not all of your users are going to do very complicated things. Very complicated things which require a lot of machine power are uploading, ingesting, transcoding. That's it. If somebody's just looking, browsing, downloading, maybe changing some metadata, creating and filling projects, doing publication, that's just database work. You're not really going to run into any bottlenecks on that side. So you can have as many users on here as you like. We prefer to have millions and millions because then we're going to get terribly rich. We love that. But it's a cascading system, easily managed. We would usually advise you on how to best structure it so the costs don't mushroom. And we have all the experience to do that. We have very large systems with very large industrial customers. There is no limit to how many we can do. Second, on the front end, this one, for example, actually, I'll show you a slightly different example. This is absolutely the same system, just this front end looks different. In this particular case, we're looking at something from Porsche. And I'm picking this one out because beyond, having the typical, you can browse and search and look at individual bits, with a certain categories or search criteria or, search on the site, which you can obviously also do here. This just looks different. It works exactly the same thing. Stuff comes from the back end. All of these items here, for example, that's the same as the items here, all come directly out of the backend, which are these folders. What's different here is this also have live streaming. So let's say at Porsche, we also do all of their car launches. They might, in fact, have a couple of million viewers at the same time, but only for a limited period of time. So in this particular case, for the playout of this site, we use a CDN because it distributes the load worldwide, and that scales freely. Secondly, we actually run the site itself. You may be familiar with the fact that CDNs usually only manage your media. We've built something that allows us to use the CDN to also manage the site, which typically would otherwise come from a local server. But if you have 20 million viewers, all of a sudden your media would show wonderfully off the CDN, but your site would collapse. So we put the site onto the CDN as well. So we don't care if you have 2 or 20 million viewers. From 1 second to the next, the system totally freely scales. And of course, you only pay for what you use. So again, there are no limits to what you can or what you would need to do in terms of preparing for lots of users. Okay.
Okay. Good for now.
Good for now. Whilst you're here, I'm just going to quickly show you, since we're at it. So this GUI is played out of this editorial GUI. And because I was here, this Porsche thingy here, this playout GUI, which is a public site, you can open this in your browser, comes from the same system. The backend just looks different. It's a new version. This is what the backend now looks like. And you can see here under distributions, I can see it says News TV front end. And for example, the lanes, you can see them here, the 911, the icon, which is, where is it? Here it is. You can see this lane, which has a certain number of contents. Okay, that is actually this lane. And you can see it's got this is the flow center, of course, the editorial backend. And we'll see the content in here once there we go. See, it works by exactly the same principle, just looks a little bit different. These are all the items that are currently published on the website here. In this category 911, the icon. And if I double click on this particular video, I'm doing the same thing that we did before. I'm opening the media container. And you can see here the metadata Porsche obviously looks very different. And if I go to distribution, I can see my different distribution channels. I've only got rights to News TV, but I can see the metadata, which is currently being published in News TV. Oops, let me just go to the edit mode, see it better. So I can change the metadata in the back end here, and that gets picked out in the front end there. So this metadata, in this case in English, so we typed it in 2 languages, but I'm on the .com site, so it's picking up the English metadata, is the metadata from here. Okay, so same system, different look. And maybe just a little bit fresher. Other things you can do in the back end here, of course, you can do a quick cut. You can create thumbnails, you can do timecode based commenting, etc. Stuff that's not so important to France TV, but is important to lots of other people. So, you know, there are lots of ways you can use the system. Down here you see the media container, and you can see it's got lots of derivatives because it's German and English, has different qualities, etc., etc. This is the media container, i.e. where you know, the variants of the same content reside. And again, everything sits in the same shoebox. This content has one ID, and you find everything that belongs together under the same ID. And if you want to publish it, all you do is you drag and drop it into the into the channel you want it to be. So we're back at the 911, the icon. And let's say I also want to publish that down here. I would simply drop that into another folder. If I want to move it into project folder, I simply drop it into project folder. If I want to send that to Jutta via room, just create a new room. Oops, got to type 2. So I'm going to give her an, yeah, let's make it a download room. So I'm going to create a new room. Where's Jutta? There it is. And now I'm going to publish this item just to Jutta. So here's my room. There's my content. I can now add some metadata, a little bit of description. Let's add some description. I'm sure Jutta would like that. Okay. Share the room. In this case, I'm not going to send it via email. I'm just cutting a corner here. Copy the link. System's already made a new website. It's got its title. It's got its personal message for Jutta. It's got the content, which Jutta can now, of course, preview in a different quality, which is a nice quality, and she gets a selection of metadata and a download button. And if she wants to look at it in English, she gets the English metadata. Okay, so you saw how simple that was and how quick. The rooms are a very powerful tool. You can do pretty much anything with it. If I go back to the same room and change its type to an upload room, let's say. So I've now changed the type to the upload room. It's the same link. I'm just refreshing it. Now it's got a new button that Jutta can do an upload. She gets an additional site and can now add files with metadata to my system. Okay, I'm not going to do this because Porsche would not like me to do, to add illicit content to their stuff, but you're getting the picture, I hope. Okay, I kind of got distracted there a little bit, admittedly. Any other questions I can answer for you?
I have one more question. Can I publish assets from the system also to a video on demand portal?
Yes, we do that the whole time. It's one of our larger businesses. We publish to pretty much every VOD platform there is. We do that really extensively for Viacom. We pretty much publish all of their content to everything outside of the Americas. So North and South America we don't send to. They do that from Miami, but the rest of the world comes out of Amsterdam and uses our system. It follows exactly the same logic. So whether your front end is a website that looks like this, or is a shop or a VOD platform, makes zero difference to us. The only difference usually is in this website I don't log in a VOD platform I would log in, just like, by the way, I logged in here. And there's a payment involved, which isn't involved here, but that's really the only difference. Otherwise, the whole treatment of a content that I want to have this particular item published to that particular distribution channel, let's say Newsroom, which I don't have access to, would be a VOD platform. All you do is really click this button, add the metadata, for example, the pricing for your VOD platform, and then from your list of distributions, you would pick VOD platform A. And once you've done all of that, you saved your content, you would take this content and drag it, drop it into your VOD platform. If it's a third-party platform, let's say you're talking about Ziggo or Netflix or Sky, it would still show up as a distribution. It would simply say Sky down here, with the difference only really being that we obviously prepare and package your content, but then also send it externally, in that case to Sky. And of course, we track that. That would show up in your history. We would see, you know, who did what to the metadata, who did what publishing when, etc., etc. So yes, the answer is definitely a yes. We do that very extensively, and we do it very reasonably, I have to say. We do that to save people money, so their businesses of actually running that as a service become commercially viable. I mean, we've built it, it's a really big system. It's pretty much out of the box, and we have the connectors to all of the known VOD platforms as a plugin. So let us know where you'd like to send them to. That drives the price, because you don't need to buy the whole thing. You just buy what you need and you're away.
Okay, that was all about questions. Do you like to add something else to your presentation? Otherwise, we would then come to an end.
No, I'd be really happy to find out what you guys are up to, what you're interested in, you know, where perhaps pressure points are, how much monetization you do. Die gewisse Steuerung zurück. Ja, gut. You know, how much, what your processes are. Typically, we have systems that save you money by optimizing your ingest and your editorial processes. And we have secondly systems that help you make money by doing all the publication and monetization. And thirdly, we have customers who try and do both. So we do all those three variants, but we're good at all of them.
Would like to thank you everybody for the participation today. We are free for questions at any time, so just contact us, send us an email, you know where to find us. And we thank you, Oliver, for the presentation. We did record this webinar and we will make it available on our channels maybe tomorrow, latest the day after. If you have any questions, Oliver and I are happy to answer them at any time. Thank you everybody for participating and have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Thanks, bye bye.